was standing in my kitchen in Knoxville a few months back, staring at a carton of eggs like they were a broken tool I couldn't figure out how to fix. I've eaten 2 eggs every single morning for as long as I can remember. When I was running the warehouse back in the 70s and 80s, those eggs were my fuel. They kept me going through 12-hour shifts of moving heavy pallets and climbing steel ladders. I always figured that as long as I kept eating my protein, my muscles would stay right where they belonged. But lately, when I looked in the mirror after a shower, I didn't recognize the man staring back at me. My legs, which used to be like tree trunks from all those years of labor, looked thinner. They looked soft. And even though I was eating the same way I always had, I felt a weakness creeping into my thighs that made getting out of the car feel like a major operation. I felt this strange, quiet panic because I was doing everything right, yet my body was still slipping away from me. If you've ever looked at your own arms or legs and wondered where the strength went, or if you felt that second of hesitation before stepping off a curb, you know exactly the kind of shadow I was living under. What I didn't understand then, and what most folks our age never hear, is that after we cross into our late 60s and 70s, our bodies stop listening to protein the way they used to. My daughter Megan, who spends her days as an occupational therapist helping seniors get their mobility back, was the one who finally sat me down and explained the hard truth. She showed me a study from a leading nutrition journal that hit me like a ton of bricks. It said that for people over 75, simply eating more eggs or chicken doesn't always work anymore. Our muscle cells develop something she called anabolic resistance. It's like a rusty gate that won't open no matter how hard you push. You can pile all the protein you want on the other side, but if that gate stays shut, your muscles stay hungry. The study found that seniors who combined their traditional meals with specific high-impact fruits gained significantly more lean muscle over 12 weeks than those who just stuck to eggs or dairy. I realized right then that I was fighting a battle I couldn't win with my old warehouse habits. I was eating protein, but my muscles weren't hearing the signal to grow. I was shrinking while I was eating, and that realization was enough to make me change everything. I decided right there at that kitchen table that I wasn't going to let my independence fade away without a fight. I spent months digging into what Megan told me, looking for a way to wake up those dormant muscle fibers. I found 5 specific fruits that act like a key to that rusty gate. They don't just provide energy, they actually tell your muscle cells to start building again. I'm going to walk you through all 5 of them today, and I've ranked them based on how much they changed things for me. The one at the very top of my list is a little golden fruit that researchers found can actually reactivate the repair crews inside your muscles, the kind of stuff they thought was impossible for someone my age. I've seen this work not just for me, but for my friend Arthur, who's 76 and was about ready to give up his woodworking shop because he couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes. We aren't doctors, but we've spent 7 decades in these bodies, and we've learned that sometimes the smallest change in what you put on your plate is the difference between staying in your own home or moving into a facility. I spent over 30 years on the warehouse floor, and I saw a lot of good men just wither away once they stopped working. I used to think it was just old age, but now I see it was a lack of the right signals. I've spent the last year testing these fruits on myself, and the results are something my own doctor could actually measure. My grip strength is up, my balance feels solid when I'm out in the yard, and those thin, tired legs are finally starting to feel like the legs of a man who can still handle his own business. I want to tell you about the first one I tried, which is a fruit most people around here have never even seen in a grocery store, but it might be the most powerful plant-based protein source I've ever found. It's called jackfruit. I first heard about it from a fellow I met at the hardware store who had moved here from the islands. I looked it up and found a study from the University of Sydney that really shook me. It said that seniors who started eating this regularly saw a 14% improvement in their grip strength over 6 months. Now, for someone my age, grip strength isn't just about opening jars. It's a predictor of how long you're going to be around and how independent you're going to stay. Jackfruit is massive, and 1 cup of it has about 3 grams of protein, which is high for a fruit. But the real reason I started eating it is the potassium and the vitamin B6. I learned that B6 is the tool your body uses to actually turn protein into muscle. Without it, the eggs I was eating were just passing right through me without doing a lick of good. My neighbor Jim, who's 78 and had been struggling with leg cramps that kept him up until 3 in the morning, started adding jackfruit to his meals. He called me a week later and said his legs finally felt quiet at night. He felt like he could walk to the mailbox without that heavy, stiff feeling in his calves. I started buying the canned version at the store, the young green kind, and I saute it up with a little garlic and olive oil. It has a texture like pulled pork, and my muscles feel fueled in a way they never did with just a plain breakfast. After the jackfruit, I started looking into something a bit more common, but just as powerful. I'm talking about guava. I used to think of tropical fruits as just treats, but Megan showed me a study from 2021 that changed my mind. A single guava has 4 grams of protein, which is almost as much as a small egg. But the real secret isn't just the protein, it's a compound called quercetin. As we get older, we deal with this low-grade fire inside our muscles that scientists call inflammaging. It's like a slow burn that destroys muscle tissue faster than we can fix it. Quercetin acts like a fire extinguisher. It puts out that fire so your muscles can finally use the protein you're giving them to actually build new tissue instead of just trying to survive the heat. I read about a trial where people over 70 who ate these kinds of foods saw a 19% increase in their muscle building rates. My friend Arthur, the woodworker I mentioned, started eating guava every afternoon. He told me that the morning rust in his joints started to clear up much faster. He felt more flexible, and he wasn't as prone to those little strains and pulls that used to set him back for a week. I just slice it up and eat it raw, skin and all, about 30 minutes before I go out to work in the yard. It feels like it gives my muscles a protective shield before I put them to work. Before I get to the top 3, I want to ask you something. How are you feeling today compared to how you were moving just 2 years ago? I know for me there was a point where I felt like I was aging 5 years for every 1 calendar year. I'd love to hear your story in the comments, because I read every single one of them. We're like a crew on a job site here. We have to look out for each other. If you're finding this helpful, it would mean a lot if you let me know. It helps me know I'm not just talking to the walls here in Knoxville. The third fruit on my list is one I bet you have in your pantry right now but haven't touched in a year: dried mulberries. I call these the dark horse because nobody talks about them. A small handful has 4 grams of protein and a good hit of iron. I found out that if your iron is low, your muscles aren't getting the oxygen they need to grow. It doesn't matter how many eggs you eat. If the oxygen isn't there, the construction stops. A study from the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition said seniors with low iron lose muscle at twice the rate of everyone else. But the real reason I eat mulberries is the resveratrol. It's the same stuff people talk about in red wine, but mulberries have it in spades without the alcohol that can mess with a senior's balance. Resveratrol activates a gene that tells your muscle cells to act younger. It restarts the tiny power plants inside your cells, the mitochondria. When those power plants start shutting down, you feel weak and tired all the time. My old friend George, who I worked with at the warehouse for 20 years, told me he felt like his battery was dead most days. He started snacking on dried mulberries, and he told me it felt like someone had finally plugged him back in. He had the energy to stay out in his wood shop for 3 hours instead of 30 minutes. I keep a bag of them in my pocket when I'm out for my walks. They're sweet and tart, and they make me feel like I've got a fresh reservoir of power in my legs. Now, number 2 on my list is one I was a bit stubborn about at first. Avocado. I used to think it was just something Linda liked on her toast, but it might be the most important thing I've put on my plate since I turned 70. It has 4 grams of protein, but it's the healthy fats that are the real story. Every muscle cell in your body is surrounded by a membrane, and as we age, those membranes get stiff and rigid. It's like a house with the doors rusted shut. The groceries can't get inside. The fats in avocado repair those membranes and make them flexible again. So the protein you eat can actually get into the cell where it can do some good. I read a landmark study that followed nearly 3,000 seniors for 3 years. The ones who ate avocado at least 3 times a week kept significantly more of their muscle mass than the ones who didn't, even when they were eating the same amount of protein. That told me that it's not just about what you eat, it's about making sure your body can actually use it. I've noticed that since I started eating half an avocado with my lunch, my balance feels much more snappy. I don't have that heavy, slow feeling when I try to change directions. My wife Linda noticed it too. She said I wasn't reaching for the kitchen counter for support as much as I used to. It gave my muscles the environment they needed to actually thrive instead of just wither. That brings me to the top of the list, the one that changed everything for me and for the researchers who studied it. Dried apricots. I know it sounds too simple to be true, but there is some incredible science happening inside these little golden fruits. They have over 2 grams of protein in a small serving, but they are also packed with beta-carotene and potassium. But the real breakthrough was a 2023 study from Harvard Medical School. They found that certain nutrients in dried apricots can actually reactivate something called satellite cells. These are the dormant repair crews that sit on the surface of your muscle fibers. When you're young, these crews are always active, fixing every little bit of damage. But after 70, they go to sleep. That is why muscle loss accelerates so fast in our later years. The repair crew has gone home. The Harvard study found that seniors who ate these nutrients daily saw a 31% increase in these repair crews waking up and getting back to work. This led to measurable improvements in how fast they could walk and how easily they could stand up from a chair. I started eating 6 to 8 unsulfured dried apricots every afternoon. I make sure to buy the brown ones, the ones without the sulfur preservatives, because they have more of the good stuff. Within a few weeks, I felt a strength in my legs that I hadn't felt since my early 60s. I felt solid again. I went to the park with my grandkids, and for the first time in years, I wasn't looking for the nearest bench the whole time. I was standing there watching them play, and my legs felt like they were made of something much stronger than straw. I want you to understand that this isn't just about nutrition. It's about your freedom. I've seen what happens when a man loses the ability to walk to his own mailbox or stand at his own grill. It starts a cycle of decline that is hard to break. But my experience, and the experience of men like Arthur and George, proves that your body is still waiting for the right signal. It's not too late. You don't have to spend hours in a gym lifting heavy weights that your joints can't handle. You just have to start feeding the fire correctly. You don't have to change everything tonight. I didn't. I started with the apricots, then I added the avocado, and then I found the mulberries. It's about being consistent. I found that eating these fruits in the mid-morning or mid-afternoon seems to work best for me. It gives my body a steady stream of signals throughout the day. And I always try to pair them with a little bit of movement, even if it's just a walk around the block or some simple stretches in my chair. When you give your muscles the right fuel and then give them a reason to move, they will respond. They want to be strong. They just need you to show them the way. I've spent 73 years on this earth, and I've learned that the most valuable thing we have is our independence. I'm not ready to give mine up, and I don't think you are either. We've worked hard, we've raised our families, and we've earned the right to enjoy these years on our own terms. That starts with the foundation of your body, your muscles. When your legs are strong, your world stays big. When they get weak, your world starts to shrink. I want your world to stay as big as it can for as long as possible. I want to leave you with a simple challenge today. Go to the store and find some unsulfured dried apricots. Just try eating a small handful every afternoon for the next 2 weeks. Pay attention to how your legs feel when you first stand up from your favorite chair. Notice if that creak in your knees feels a little less loud. Notice if you feel a little more certain of your footing. I think you're going to find, just like I did, that there is a strength still living inside you that just needs the right key to get out. I'm going to keep sitting here on my porch in Knoxville, and I'm going to keep looking for the things that work. I'm not going to let old age be an excuse for getting weak. I'm going to keep moving, keep eating my apricots, and keep enjoying my grandkids. I hope you'll join me on this path. We've still got a lot of miles left to cover, and I want us to cover them with our heads held high and our legs moving strong. Thank you for spending a little bit of your time with me today. It means a lot to know I'm not the only one fighting this fight. We're going to stay strong, we're going to stay healthy, and we're going to keep moving because every step we take is a victory for our independence. I'll be right here, and I'll see you soon.